Glory to God the Father and Son Yeshua Mashiach. 2 Chronicles chapter 21. Jehoram does evil. Jehoshaphat slept with his ancestors and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David, and Jehoram his son became king in his place. He had brothers who were sons of Jehoshaphat, Uzziah, Jechiel, Zechariah, Azariah, Mikael and Shephatyahu. All these were sons of Jehoshaphat king of Israel. Their father had given him lavish gifts of silver, gold and other items of value, as well as fortified cities in Yehudah, but he had given the kingdom to Jehoram, because he was the firstborn. But when Jehoram had taken control of his father's kingdom and consolidated his rule, he put to the sword all his brothers and a number of the leading men in Israel. He was 32 years old when he began his reign, and he ruled 8 years in Jerusalem. He lived after the example of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab, because he had married Ahab's daughter. He did what was evil from Adonai's perspective. However, Adonai was unwilling to destroy the house of David, because of the covenant he had made with David, inasmuch as he had promised to give him and his children a lamp that would burn forever. The revolt of Edom and Libnah. During his time Edom revolted against Yehudah and set up its own king. Then Jehoram crossed with his commanders and all his chariots. Under cover of night, he and his chariot commanders attacked and defeated Edom, who had surrounded him. Nevertheless, since that day Edom has remained free of Yehudah's domination. Libnah revolted against him at the same time, because he had abandoned Adonai, the God of his ancestors. Moreover, he built high places in the hills of Yehudah, caused the people living in Jerusalem to prostitute themselves, and drew Yehudah away. A warning from Elijah. A letter came to him from Eliyahu the prophet, which said, "Here is what Adonai, the God of David your ancestor, says. You have not lived by the examples of Jehoshaphat your father or Asa king of Yehudah. Instead you have lived by the example of the kings of Israel and have caused Yehudah and the people living in Jerusalem to prostitute themselves, just as the house of Ahab caused Israel to prostitute themselves. Moreover, you killed your brothers from your father's house, men better than you. Because of all this, Adonai is going to strike your people with a terrible disease, also your children, your wives and everything you have. You will be very ill from a disease in your intestines, until your intestines protrude, because of the effects of this disease, day after day." Philistines and Arabians invade. Then Adonai aroused against Jehoram the spirit of the Pelishtim and of the Arabs near the Ethiopians. And they came up to attack Yehudah. They broke in and carried off all the personal property they could find in the royal palace, as well as his children and his wives, so that no son was left to him except Jehoahaz his youngest son. The death of Jehoram. After all this, Adonai struck him in his intestines with an incurable disease. In time, after 2 years, his intestines protruded because of his disease, and he suffered a most painful death. His people kindled no fire for him, as had been done for his ancestors. He was 32 years old when he began his reign. He ruled in Jerusalem for 8 years, and he left without joy. They buried him in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. Second Chronicles chapter 22. Ahaziah does evil. The people living in Jerusalem made Ahaziah his youngest son king in place of him, since the raiding party that had invaded the camp with the Arabs had killed all the older ones. So Ahaziah the son of Jehoram king of Yehuda reigned. Ahaziah was 42 years old when he began his reign, and he ruled for 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. He too lived after the example of the house of Ahab, because his mother was his counselor in acting wickedly. So he did what was evil from Adonai's perspective, as had the house of Ahab, because, to his destruction, they were his counselors after his father died. And he lived his life by their advice. With Jehoram the son of Ahab, king of Israel, he went to war against Hazael king of Aram at Ramoth Gilead, where the Aramim wounded Joram. He returned to Israel to be healed of the wounds which they had inflicted on him at Ramah while fighting Hazael king of Aram. Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Yehuda, went down to visit Jehoram the son of Ahab in Israel, because he was not feeling well. Through Ahaziah's visit to Joram, God brought about his downfall. After he arrived, he accompanied Joram against Jehu the son of Nimshi, whom Adonai had anointed to cut off the house of Ahab. But it happened that when Jehu was executing judgment on the house of Ahab, he found the leading men of Yehuda and Ahaziah's nephews in attendance on Ahaziah and killed them. Then he went searching for Ahaziah. They caught him where he had been hiding in Shomeron, brought him to Jehu and killed him. But his subjects buried him, because they said, he was the grandson of Jehoshaphat, who sought Adonai with all his heart. At this point there was no one in the house of Ahaziah strong enough to rule the kingdom. The reign of Athaliah. When Athaliah the mother of Ahaziah saw that her son was dead, she set about destroying the entire royal family of the house of Yehuda. But Jehoshaphat the daughter of the king took Joash the son of Ahaziah, stole him away from among the princes who were being slaughtered, and sequestered him and his nurse in a bedroom. Thus Jehoshaphat the daughter of King Jehoram, wife of Jehoiada the Cohen and sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah, so that he was not killed. He remained hidden with them in the house of God for 6 years. During this time Athaliah ruled the land. Second Chronicles chapter 23. In the 7th year Jehoiada took courage and formed a conspiracy with certain captains of 100-man platoons, Azariah the son of Jeroham, Ishmael the son of Elchanan, Azariah the son of Oved, Maaseyahu the son of Adayahu and Elishaphat the son of Zikri. They canvassed Yehuda and gathered the Levium from all the cities of Yehuda, together with the clan heads of Israel, and came to Jerusalem. The whole assembly made an agreement with the king in the house of God. Jehoiada addressed them. "Here, the king's son will reign, as Adonai said in regard to the descendants of David. Here is what you are to do. Of you Kohanim and Levium who come on duty on Shabbat, 1/3 are to guard the gates, 1/3 the royal palace and 1/3 the gate of the foundation, while all the people are to remain in the courtyards of the house of Adonai. No one is to enter the house of Adonai except the Kohanim and those Levium who are actually performing the service. These may enter, because they are holy, but all the people are to observe Adonai's order. The Levium are to surround the king, each man with his weapons in his hand. Anyone who enters the house is to be killed. Stay with the king whenever he enters or leaves." The Levium and all Yehuda did exactly as Jehoiada the Cohen ordered. Each took his men, those coming on duty on Shabbat and those going off duty on Shabbat, for Jehoiada the Kohen did not dismiss the divisions. Jehoiada the Kohen issued to the captains of hundreds the spears and the large and small shields that had been King David's and were kept in the house of God. He then positioned all the people, each man with his weapon in his hand, from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, alongside the altar, alongside the exterior of the house and around the king. Then they brought out the king's son, crowned him, gave him a copy of the testimony and thus made him king. Jehoiada and his sons anointed him, and they shouted, "Long live the king!" When Athaliah heard the sound of the people running and praising the king, she entered the house of Adonai where the people were, looked and saw the king standing there on his platform at the entrance, with the leaders and trumpeters next to the king. All the people of the land were celebrating and blowing the trumpets, while the singers with their musical instruments were leading songs of praise. At this, Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, "Treason! Treason!" Jehoiada the Kohen brought out the captains of hundreds who were in charge of the army and said to them, "Escort her out past the ranks of guards, but anyone who follows her, let him be put to the sword." For the Kohen had said, "Do not put her to death in the house of Adonai." So they took her by force and led her by the horses' entry to the king's palace, and there they put her to death. The covenant of Jehoiada. Jehoiada made a covenant between himself, all the people and the king, that they would be Adonai's people. Then all the people went to the house of Baal and broke it down. They smashed his altars and images and killed Mattan the priest of Baal in front of the altars. Jehoiada appointed officers for the house of Adonai under the supervision of the Kohanim and Leviim, whom David had assigned turns of duty in the house of Adonai, to offer the burnt offerings of Adonai, as written in the Torah of Moshe, with rejoicing and singing in keeping with David's orders. He stationed guards at the gates of the house of Adonai, so that no one who was unclean in any respect could enter. He took the captains of hundreds, the men of rank, the rulers of the people and all the people of the land, and they brought the king down from the house of Adonai, going through the upper gate to the royal palace, and seated the king on the royal throne. All the people of the land celebrated, and at last the city was quiet. That is how they killed Athaliah with the sword. Second Chronicles chapter 24. Joash does right. Joash was 7 years old when he began his reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Sivia, from Beer-sheba. Joash did what was right from Adonai's perspective throughout the lifetime of Jehoiada the Kohen. Jehoiada chose 2 wives for him, and he became the father of sons and daughters. Joash repairs the house of the Lord. Sometime later, Joash decided to restore the house of Adonai. He gathered the Kohanim and Leviim and said to them, "Go out to the cities of Yehudah, and collect money each year from all Israel to repair the house of your God. See that you do this promptly." But when the Leviim procrastinated, the king summoned Jehoiada the chief and said to him, "Why haven't you demanded that the Leviim bring in from Yehudah and Jerusalem the tax prescribed by Moshe the servant of Adonai and by the community of Israel, for the tent of the testimony?" For the sons of that wicked Athaliah had broken up the house of God, and they had given all the consecrated things belonging to the house of Adonai to the Baalim. Then, at the king's order, they made a box and placed it outside the entrance to the house of Adonai. They proclaimed throughout Yehuda and Jerusalem that the tax Moshe the servant of God had imposed on Israel in the desert should be brought in for Adonai. All the leaders and all the people were glad to bring in their contributions and put them in the box, until it was full. When the box was brought to the king's officials by the Levium, and when they saw how much money there was, the king's secretary and the chief Cohen's official came and emptied the box. Then they took it and returned it to its place. They did this daily, and they collected money in abundance. The king and Jehoiada gave it to those in charge of taking care of the house of Adonai. They, in turn, hired stone workers and carpenters to restore the house of Adonai, also iron and bronze workers to repair the house of Adonai. The workers got on with their tasks, so that the restoration progressed well, until they had returned the house of God to its earlier condition and strengthened it. When they had finished, they brought the rest of the money to the king and Jehoiada, and it was used to make equipment for the house of Adonai, articles for ministry, buckets, fire pans, and utensils of gold and silver. So they offered burnt offerings in the house of Adonai regularly throughout the time of Jehoiada. The death of Jehoiada. But Jehoiada grew old, and when he was full of days, he died. He was 130 years old when he died. They buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had served Israel, God and his house well. Joash slays the son of Jehoiada. After Jehoiada died, the leaders of Yehuda came and prostrated themselves before the king. Then the king listened to them. And they abandoned the house of Adonai the God of their ancestors and served the sacred poles and the idols. In consequence of their guilt, God's anger fell on Yehuda and Jerusalem. In spite of this, he sent them prophets to bring them back to Adonai. They warned them, but they wouldn't pay attention. The Spirit of God covered Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the Cohen. He stood above the people and addressed them. Thus says God, "Why are you transgressing the mitzvot of Adonai and courting disaster? Because you have abandoned Adonai, he has abandoned you." But they conspired against him and stoned him to death at the order of the king in the courtyard of the house of Adonai. Thus Joash the king did not remember the kindness which Jehoiada, Zechariah's father, had done for him, but put his son to death. As he was dying, he said, "May Adonai see this and take vengeance." Judah is destroyed by Syria. The following spring, the army of Aram came up against him. They attacked Yehuda and Jerusalem, slaughtered all the people's leaders and sent all their spoil to the king of Damascus. Although the army of Aram attacked with only a small company of men, Adonai handed over a very great army to them, because they had abandoned Adonai the God of their ancestors. Thus they executed judgment against Joash. The death of Joash. After they had left him, and they left him seriously wounded, his own servants conspired against him because he had shed the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the Cohen, and they killed him in his own bed. After he died, they buried him in the city of David, but they didn't bury him in the tombs of the kings. Those who conspired against him were Zabad the son of Shimath the Ammonith and Jehoshaphat the son of Shimrith the Moabite. As for his sons, the heavy tribute imposed on him, and the rebuilding of the house of God, they are recorded in the commentary of the Annals of the Kings. Then Amaziah his son took his place as king.